for tuning in, guys. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Make sure to hit the bell button so you, in fact, do get notifications. So welcome back. Hope you had a long weekend that was truly enjoyable. And yeah, it's good to be back. I had a good weekend myself. Went out with the Calgary video creators over the weekend for Make a Vlog Day. Had a good time. Met a bunch of new people, so that was absolutely fantastic. It was good to get out there and meet some people I had not met in person before, some people that have been in this live stream before, you know, and communicated in the chat. So it was really cool to get out and meet everybody. A lot of cool videos that have come out of the process. So if you are in the Calgary Video Creators group, by all means, check those out or check them out on Twitter. I think they've been retweeting them. So super, super cool. Lots of fun. So it was a good time had by all. Of course, we've got our photo walk coming up, which I will talk about later. But today, of course, it's traditionally Ask Me Anything, but of course, my topic of the day is, of course, the new Canon EOS R, which we talked about last week. Canon's supposed mirrorless camera will be announced tomorrow. It was kind of one of those rumors that was kept really, really quiet for a very, very long time. We thought that initially that it was going to be announced next year, that chances are that it wouldn't happen during Photokina. However, that looks like it's going to happen tomorrow. Canon dropped a bunch of ads in Canon Asia, basically indicating that there's going to be a huge announcement tomorrow. In fact, 5, which is believed to be the camera and some additional lenses. So it's going to be a very, very interesting day in those regards, because I think, you know, people have been waiting for this for a long time. But, you know, as well as they kept things quiet for a long, long time, that did not stop this from happening. So this is the Canon EOS official spec sheet a day ahead of the announcement. So we've got all the specs on the camera, what to expect, some of the things that we talked about last week. I have some photos that have basically turned up of the camera itself. So, I mean, things are going to get very, very interesting in the terms of mirrorless cameras. So if you are looking to get into the mirrorless game, you're going to ultimately have, you know, 3 very solid choices in Nikon, Sony, as well as Canon. So the Canon EOS R, basically, you know, there were some rumors going around about the lens mount. There is going to be a new lens mount. So what they have is now called the Canon RF mount. So for those of you that are invested in the Canon system, much like myself, you know, your lenses are not going to natively adapt to it. There will be an adapter to do it. I mean, you know, a lot of people are kind of, you know, talking about things like mirrorless cameras and adapters as the end of the world. It's just sort of a shift in photography. I mean, anybody who's been around photography and photographs for a long, long time, you have probably switched some things over time. Even myself, you know, I have gone from film to digital to, you know, from early digital to newer digital, and probably at some point here will fully embrace sort of mirrorless cameras when it basically does the job that I need it to do. So, you know, the fact that they're switching to an RF mount, the fact that they've got basically adapters is not a big deal. It does mean that you're going to be able to continue to use your glass, which is a good thing, you know, especially if you've invested a lot of money in glass. So, I mean, obviously, DSLRs are still an option. We'll probably see those get phased out over the next few years, depending on, you know, exactly how they decide to go in. But Canon, interestingly enough, has, you know, definitely shown from what I've seen here that they are investing, you know, in the new system. They're showing people they're serious about it. They're looking to target pros. I mean, one of the first pieces of glass, an important piece of glass coming out for the new system, which is especially important for me, is that focal range of, you know, 24 to 70 in that range is one of my biggest sort of ranges that I like to work in. And they have a f2 basically lens coming out in that range. So I mean, for me, it's going to be something easy enough to jump into. So, you know, the images and all that kind of stuff. So we've got some detailed specs. So CMOS sensor, it is going to be dual pixel CMOS autofocus, which is good because, I mean, Canon's dual pixel autofocus is really kind of a cool system. And as well, the fact that they have some of the things like where you can adjust the focus a little bit after the fact, although I've not used that terribly a lot, it is nice to have all these kind of things. So basically you are looking at a image sensor that has 31.7 megapixels with an effective approximately of about 30.3. So it is a good sized full frame sensor. Of course, we've got, total pixels. We've got pixel units 5.6. So we've got some cool things. So recording formats, things that people are going to be really interested in. So you will be able to shoot RAW. You will be able to shoot JPEG simultaneously. It does look like there is only going to be the one card slot. So that'll be interesting. Me, myself, I do honestly want to have two card slots. I don't like walking around with one. I do like it where I have the capacity to essentially back up in the camera, especially when it's important footage. Having that backup just in case a card corrupts, which has happened before, is a good thing to have. Hey, Josh, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. So, it may be just a single card slot, so it's going to be interesting in those regards how it sort of goes. So jumping through a lot of the features, so we've got dual pixel RAW shooting, which is cool. We've got basically anti-flicker shooting. We've got, all the normal kind of stuff, high-speed sync, good shutter speed, aperture, all those kind of stuff. It does have Bluetooth. It does have Wi-Fi. Going down to the autofocus, it is a phase detection system with image sensor, dual pixel CMOS autofocus. And basically the Canon autofocus modes that you would expect to know, one-shot AF, servo, and manual are definitely kicking around, as well as, it's got all the different exposure control systems that we're used to. ISO range. So basically, you are looking at an effective range of 100 to 40,000, which it's a good chunk. How the images are going to look in those ranges is an entirely different thing, so we will see. Is this the mirrorless? Yes, absolutely, Josh. This is the mirrorless system. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is all the spec sheets that were leaked. So we have the official leaked spec sheets kicking around. So a lot of good stuff. So we do have actually the camera as well. So that is the first look at the camera. So you can see the R predominantly displayed on the front. Good looking camera, looks very, very, what I would say, Canon-esque. Shutter speeds up to 1/8000th, which is good. So it's a good fast shutter speed as well. It has ETTL flash as well. It bursts at 9 shots per second. So, it's a maximum is 8 frames per second. So high speed continuous shooting at 8 frames a second. It is going to be a very fast camera. For those of you who are into the video specs are something that you will be interested in. So it will be 4K, 840 by 2160 UHD, shooting at 29, 24, and 23.98 frames per second. So that will be your 4K. Full HD quality, you will see it up to 60 frames a second. So a little bit slower than the Sony, which goes up to a full 120. You do see 120 frames a second in HD at 720. I don't know why camera companies insist on doing that. I mean, I guess there are people around that really don't care about their, shooting at 720, that's high def enough for them, but not quite the slow-mo that Sony has. But again, the fact that it has, 4K, the fact that it has 1080 up to 60 frames per second, very good. It is shooting MP4 AVEC 264, so that is good. And again, it's it's got continuous shooting time, which we expect it'll shut off. Basically, you've got up to 120 megabits per second on the 4K, which is huge, 180 in HD. So, I mean, some good specs coming out of that. I mean, essentially, the camera is looking fairly good. Again, the announcement is officially tomorrow, so you'll get to see the video tomorrow. You'll get to see it. There will be a ton of media coming out of this. I'm pretty sure we're going to get buried in it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, like I said, the Canon camera is going to, be coming out. And one of the things that everybody's going to love about this, and I'm saying this now, is this will be likely the next go-to vlogging camera for YouTubers. A lot of people, vlog with the Sony. They'll vlog, with that camera. The problem is it doesn't have the tilty flip screen. This camera will have it. So on the back, you'll see that essentially it does have the flip out screen. So it's much like the 70D. It's going to flip out to the side, so you'll have that monitor to look at. So there you go. What's going on? Do we know a price yet? It's under, I believe it's under $1,900 US. What the exact price is Canadian, it'll be out, like I said, tomorrow. What you can expect. If you go to any camera store site tomorrow, chances are they will be taking pre-orders. They will have all the official data. It will be posted up. It will happen right away. I'm not sure when this is shipping for. Like I said, they've got 4 lenses coming out. They've got 3 primes, 1 variable zoom, as far as I can tell. Again, all sort of prorated glasses, with the exception of the one which is an f4, 2 zooms and 2 prime lenses. The one that goes to 105 zoom lens is an f4. So it's going to be very interesting to see, how this all sort of rolls out. I imagine this will be a camera in high demand, because guaranteed one of the advantages of going with this system, if you are with Canon, is that because you will be moving native, Canon lenses to it, and even though you'll be using an adapter, it will probably handle them a lot better than switching across systems. That being said, like I said, I've been working with the Sony for, a bit now, and it's working very well, even with an adapter, because I do have no native Sony lenses for it. I am using all Canon lenses at this time. So what's this going to do to the market? It's difficult to say. I mean, the truth of the matter is with, the way that Canon works with the autofocus, typically in video, it works very well. That's why people use them for vlogging and all that, all that in that system. That's why it's loved so much. There are some people, like I said, that are upset about the lenses. There are going to be, if you are moving from things like a Rebel with a crop sensor, chances are that you're going to have some issues adapting lenses. But I mean, to be honest, if you are switching from a system like that to a camera like this full frame anyways, you would have to probably switch a lot of those. Crop sensor lenses are not going to be your friend on this anyways, because you're not going to be utilizing the sensor. It may have the option to switch to crop shooting, but again, you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to utilize the camera for what it is. So one of the other things in there, and if you notice on the picture there, and this is probably the coolest thing that is going on with this thing, there is like a little touch sensor pad just to the right of the focus. So chances are, much like the sort of like something like the Apple touchpads where you can scroll back and forth, kind of instead of a manual clicky wheel that typically resides in those kind of areas. So that's going to be back there. It's going to be interesting to see how that functions and that plays out. But like I said, I think this will be the vlogging go-to camera, mainly because it's a full frame camera. It's got a flip out screen. You are basically, you've got 4K video, you've got, slow-mo and 60K at 1080p. So it's going to be very interesting to see how, people sort of adapt this and go with this. And of course, on top, we've got the Canon LCD screen. And, essentially it's gone the route of the Nikon, which I do like, sort of the white on black. So super cool. So that's kind of where we are at with the Canon EOS R. I think it's going to be a good system. Of course, ultimately, at the end of the day, it will depend on what kind of imagery comes out of the camera. how well the autofocus system works, how, sort of you're able to adapt to it. I don't know anything about the weather sealing or anything like that. So it's going to be, again, one of those kind of things where it's like a wait and see. Again, Canon has been, doing mirrorless cameras already. They just haven't had that full frame offering that people wanted. So that's why people were buying things like the Sony camera. Josh says, I like it, man. It looks good. I wonder what the autofocus in video will be like. Well, it's the dual pixel autofocus. So it will be very much if you have been using any of their more current products. So if you use something like a Canon 80D or a 6D Mark II, or if you are using anything like the 5D Mark IV, I imagine it will be very, very comparable to those autofocus systems. So it's going to be a good camera in those regards. I mean, those of people who were using things like the Canon EOS M50 that were shooting 1080p, because in 4K it doesn't utilize dual pixel autofocus in their smaller camera, loved how that camera performed. And I mean, in all honesty, that is a fantastic vlogging camera as well, with a little bit more, versatility than, just a point and shoot. But, it's nice and compact and gives you a little bit more options. It is a basically crop sensor, CMOS sensor, so it's not as big a sensor. For somebody like myself, I obviously want, the bigger sensor for my work and what I do. Now, that being said, like I mentioned earlier, we went out as a group of Calgary video creators. We went and we, basically make a vlog day. I was just sort of out more or less testing my camera more than anything else. It wasn't really kind of a hard, dedicated vlog. I shot a bunch of B-roll. That day I shot with 3 different, basically, cameras. I shot with the iPhone 8, I shot with the Canon G7X, and I shot with the Sony A7 III, and then I sort of mashed all the video up together. And the funny thing is that at the end of the day, a lot of people, were unable to tell what exactly, which camera shot what. I mean, for those of you who are, big into video, probably were able to tell right away. But, for the average viewer, the average person that, sort of consumes this kind of media, it's very, very difficult for them to tell, especially if you, again, are editing well and, putting things together well and choosing sort of the right shooting conditions. It's very, very interesting, that basically, a thing like the Sony, which is basically a $3,000 body with about a $1,500 lens on it, so about $4,500 versus a $600 point and shoot camera. A lot of people could not tell the difference after I went in and basically color edited the footage. So very, very interesting that, people, and that just, goes to show you as a reminder, if you're a YouTuber or a vlogger, somebody that is in that field, and that you feel that you are so far behind because of equipment and that you need to spend all this money to get equipment. It's not necessarily. You can get away with a cell phone. You can get away with a point and shoot camera. You don't need all these fancy things. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, when I'm out there vlogging, I am using a Canon G7X. Why? Because it's compact, it's easy to carry, and I can abuse the living hell out of it, and I'm not terribly worried about it. I can drop it several times, and then I can pry the shutters open when they don't work, and a whole bunch of things. It's just a lot more convenient for me, and that's coming from somebody who likes good image quality when he shoots. But of course, when I'm working photography, there is no substitute for DSLR, in my opinion. So there you go. Josh says, I love that we're getting out of our G7Xs for the vlogging. So that Calgary Tower footage from a while ago. Yes. And that's the other interesting thing. I got a lot of comments on the Calgary Tower footage. I keep stock footage around. And, if you are a dedicated viewer of the vlog, you will see that sometimes, every once in a while, B-roll footage in particular, I will utilize similar footage. And, I do that because a lot of times it's either fast and people miss it, or, it's in a vlog that isn't highly watched, or whatever the case may be. I can always utilize it, or it works well in something else. The footage that Josh is referring to, basically, we were walking from the parkade to the meetup. We walked past the mirrors where you can get a bunch of cool little camera angles and reflections of the Calgary Tower. And I sort of, flipped from that video up to the tower for a shot shooting down. A lot of people were asking me how I got that footage as well, because it is directly from on top. I jokingly said that basically long rope and a harness, but in all honesty, it was shot with a G7X. And basically a little Joby camera tripod, and basically shot straight down through the glass floor at the Calgary Tower. So if you've been to the Calgary Tower, there is a section where you can walk out and it's a glass floor. It's just shot through there. It's just a time lapse that was essentially shot through there. So it's again, at this time, the footage worked well. I just kind of wanted the transitions to go as we were walking, to the footage, to the buildings, see the tower, zoom up to the tower, shoot down to the tower, get a time lapse, showing City Hall, and then zooming into where we were. Was just kind of the concept of it, and again, like, I did not have a ton of footage because I didn't shoot a lot. I cut out early, and I had a party to go to. So very interesting in, how you can piece all those things together. But again, all that footage, none of it was shot with a Canon, with the Sony A7 III. So, I mean, again, it's all on how you utilize the tools that you have. You can basically utilize these tools and, make sure that everything is kind of, works really, really well in those regards. So that's kind of all I have for you guys today. Obviously, tomorrow is the big announcement day for Canon. So we'll probably see some more photographs, or some better photographs. We'll see some live demos, and I'll probably have some better information for you. But that's kind of where that is at now. Of course, we've got, if you missed the meetup, it was a fantastic meetup. We do have another meetup on the 15th. We do have a photo walk and video walk. So it's an opportunity to get out there and get some B-roll footage. And again, something that you can photograph or film and utilize later on down the road. I mean, it's always good to have that kind of footage kicking around as much as you can, because you never know when you might want to utilize it. So you can definitely do that. The link is getting thrown in there now. Tomorrow or this week, I will try to get a little bit more organized. I know a few other people have their videos to release. Hopefully I will get a good list going and share sort of a playlist, or put together at least a playlist to show you all those videos from that meetup. But it was a good time. A lot of people had fun. It was good. It was good to see that many people at a meetup. It's good. A bunch of fresh faces. It was absolutely awesome. Josh says, hell yeah, man. I'm excited to get out and use my bigger camera again. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, it's just a good time to get out, get some footage, learn, meet some new people. Hopefully it will be well attended. It's definitely a night thing, which is cool as well, because Calgary has, I think, some really great night spots to take photographs at. It'll be a good, fun time. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Remember, smash that like button. Appreciate you guys coming in for the live stream. I will be back again tomorrow. And until next time, see ya.